Yeah, you're punk enough. Well, yeah, that's good enough for me.
All right. Thank you for joining us. This is Ed from That's Good Enough for Me with the latest episode of the Almost Punk Enough podcast. Today I'm joined by Russ Rankin of Good Riddance. Obviously, they are a band that's been the defining voice in melodic hardcore for about 3 decades now. They're releasing a new album on March 27th on Fat Records. It's called Before the World Caves In, and they've got a pair of new singles out. The most recent is Drive Faster. So it feels like a perfect time for us to catch up, not just about the record, but about everything that's going on in the world right now. Russ, I really appreciate you taking the time today. How's everything going?
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So with the new record coming out, obviously there's been some stuff that's gone on in terms of the label and everything like that. So how are you feeling about the changes that have occurred, and what are you guys looking forward to with Before the World Caves In coming out on the 27th?
I think that for us generally, it's just been an adjustment period. This album actually was recorded almost a year ago in April, but we've been navigating, Fat Records being absorbed by Hopeless, still having the Fat label, still having the Fat logo, still being a Fat Records release, but just a lot of new people to meet, a new team, a new way of doing things. Every label's a little bit different, and our whole career, we've only been on Fat. So for us, it's been a lot, a lot of like good things, but just a lot of new things to navigate. And so just getting used to like the way Hopeless slash Fat wants to do things, getting to know our product manager, who's the person on the label that's sort of like overseeing our sphere. Also, this is our first year really of having management. Our band's never had a manager before, and so that's all new. And
Awesome.
yeah, so just new things, but overall, it's all good news, right? It's like we've kind of been on autopilot with the same label with sort of the same process for so long. So it's just yeah, it's been interesting. It's been kind of fun to see what's in store. This is our 10th album, which is pretty cool. Like not a lot of bands get there, and so not only was it important for us to make a meaningful album that that let the put the world on notice that we're still here and we're still coming out swinging, but also as a 10th album, we really wanted to make a splash and make sure that because I just think there's a lot of people out there who are like, oh, they're still playing, and and we don't want to be a, oh, they're still playing band. We want to be a like, where are they playing? I have to go band. So we're trying to get from A to B, and we're hoping that the pieces in place, the infrastructure, label management, what have you, we're hoping all of that stuff combined with the songs that we've come up with can kind of get us there.
I'm sure it will. I've had an opportunity to give it a couple of listens before we did this interview, and I was blown away by the fact that punk bands on their 10th record aren't typically hitting it as hard as you guys have come out of the gates with it. So I'm personally really excited about what everyone's going to get to hear with it.
Thanks,
Um,
man.
yeah, of course. So, but you kind of touched on it, but the milestone of a 10th record, obviously, and again in the melodic punk scene, it's just not something that happens very often. Um, did you guys approach it as if it was a little bit different, or did it still feel like business as usual going into the writing and recording process?
I think there was some discussion around it. Like we don't know how many more kicks at the can we've got given our age and various responsibilities outside of the band. So like we recognize that we're tremendously fortunate to be able to still do this, and the fact that it's the 10th album from a band that's was basically just a local band in a small beach town is pretty cool. Um, Obviously, we couldn't have done it alone. We've had tons of help along the way from labels, from some of the most amazing uh, hardcore fans in the world. And but yeah, like it sort of was a moment like, wow, this is our 10th album. Um, so yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, nice. So what was the starting point on it when you guys came up with the idea to make the next record? What did you feel you needed to say with this one at this time, the time a year ago when you recorded it?
I think there already was sort of an unspoken, I don't want to say agreement, but kind of an unspoken feeling that like let's let's not just make an album to make an album. Like, I mean, the world doesn't need another Good Riddance album. Let's face it, there's thousands of bands out there doing stuff, and so if we're gonna do it, let's really fucking roll up our sleeves and get to it. And also, uh, we've had discussions about bands that we all like, bands that we all respect, bands that we all grew up listening to, who softened with age, and that's no shade on them. I think that just happens, and so we very much wanted to not do that.
Nice.
And I think that kind of spirit was already there, like almost like being defensive. Like people are going to expect us to come out with these softballs and like let's just fucking punch them in the teeth. Like that's kind of was our mindset before world events became what they were. And I think that if anything that crystallized that sort of vision, that mission. So I think that's what you get.
Nice. So you kind of you mentioned that some bands have softened with age, and punk obviously has always been tied to a bit of a youth movement. So how has that relationship changed over time for a band like you guys who have been around to see the ebbs and flows of the scene?
Yeah, I mean it's a young man's game. It's no, like I said, it's no shade on any band who's in their, the age that we are now. And it's like, hey man, like screaming for an hour gives me a headache. Like I get it. I totally understand. And the body doesn't work the same way. Luke has been slinging the Les Paul around for like 30 years. Like his bones are not shaped the same way they used to be because of it. And so I totally understand why that happens. I think that we just wanted to, if possible, make sure that didn't happen with us. And so we were kind of going to know early on as the songs came out where this was headed. And I think all of us were quite prepared to pull the chute if it was beginning to sound like it might be a softball situation.
Awesome. So the latest single, Drive Faster, it kind of touches on that feeling of invincibility when you're younger. So obviously does the sense of youthful optimism that you guys have had, is it harder to hold on to now? Is it the same as it has always been?
For me, I can only speak for myself. It's gone, but the memory of it and the visceral, tangible feeling of it is accessible in my memory, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's, and it's funny, like speaking of softballs, like that Drive Faster is maybe one of the softer songs on the album, but still, it made me think about when I was first going to shows. Most of my shows in my formative years were at a club in Berkeley called Gilman Street, and I was just remembering that seeing the same faces every weekend, and how in that community we all felt very responsible for the continuation of our scene, and we all felt a part of making sure that we still had a place to see bands play. And so there was a tremendous amount of community and this sort of feeling of man, if enough of us get together, like anything is possible. Check this out. Like we got an all ages club, and it's $5 to see 5 bands, and like kind of like Lord of the Flies. Like we're doing this. We're doing this no matter what like Joe Blow, rock promoter, has to say about our music. Like we're doing it ourselves. And there's something really powerful for me about those times. And like I said, like things have changed quite a bit, but those feelings are still readily accessible to me in my memory.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that everyone has that scene that they come up in, and how much it means to them, and it carries them through, and those records that they hear the first time that just kind of change the way that they look at things. So what do you think people are going to take away from this new record once they give it their first full listen?
I'm always hopeful that people who have been into our band for a long time are stoked. And I'm also hopeful that people who have never heard of our band become fans. That's what I hope.
Nice. So we're just going to take a real quick break. We'll be back in just a minute with a little bit more from Russ and the rest of the new album about Good Riddance. Thank you. All right, we're back with Russ Rankin. So Russ, what does songwriting look like for Good Riddance in 2026 compared to the early days, or 2025? What keeps you creatively engaged after doing it for 30 years?
So ever since we did the album called My Republic, the advent of personal computing was a big player in that, and has been ever since. Given me the opportunity as a principal songwriter to plug instruments into my computer and to render basically full demos of songs with magic drummer guy that I can make play any beat I want as fast as I want or slow as I want, using any drums or cymbals that I want. Then I can plug guitars in. I can do rhythm tracks, lead tracks. I can plug a bass in. I can plug a mic in. I can do a lead vocal. I can do backing vocals. I can do harmony vocals. And so it's tremendously freeing for me as a songwriter. And it's also cool for the other guys who don't have to like take time out of their day to go to a band practice where something may or may not happen. And instead they can open their inbox and, hey, there's a new song. Russ sent us a new song. Let me check it out. And then I hear back from them, hey, this didn't really do it for me, or hey, I love this song. And that's sort of the way that this album came about, just compiling me sending songs. Only songs that were unanimously like thumbs up made the cut. Awesome. If even one person was like, yeah, I don't know, that song got trashed. And so what we ended up with was a group of songs which were unanimously people were unanimously stoked on in the band, and they went into this hopper, and then we practiced the hell out of them, because now we had them and we knew what we were practicing,
right?
And then we demoed them so we could listen to them recorded with not just my software, but like with our whole band playing them. And then we got our producer Bill Stevenson involved listening to the demos. We got our manager involved listening to the demos. And through that process, we picked through, and people voted, and we had some sort of like weird spreadsheet thing, and that's ended up being the songs that were picked for the album.
Awesome. So if you had everything pretty much agreed upon and unanimous before you even got to the demoing process, was there any songs on the record that really challenged you or any of the members to finish up?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Were there any songs that created a challenge in terms of getting everyone on board? So if you're putting together the drums, was there something that Sean was like, hey, you know what, this is a little bit rough for me, let's try it this way, or anything to that effect? Or was it all because you guys had all agreed upon it in advance, did it just make it a bit more streamlined?
I think that the agreeing upon in advance is like when I send them my Logic demo, they're hearing the song more or less intact, beginning, middle, end, guitar parts, vocal parts, and then saying like, yes, this sounds like a Good Riddance song. I'm into it. That said, once we had enough of those, band practices are always about kicking those around, poking at them. What about this? What if we try this here? What if we take out that? What if we take out that line? What if we shorten this bridge? Like, so that process is still kind of like old school organic band practice process. So everybody learns the song from the demos that I sent. So we go into practice, and everybody kind of knows how the song goes. We play through it a few times, and then we kind of look at each other and go like, "Oh, what did everybody think?" And that's when we start poking at it, and that's where those kind of things would happen, where somebody would come up with another part to play, or yeah, I mean what you said.
Nice. So a lot of the songs on the record, the titles feel they're very heavy and pointed titles for the tracks, and obviously the tracks themselves are pretty heavy and pointed. So was there a unifying theme across the album? Was that intentional? Was it unintentional?
Before I started writing, I thought a lot. I thought a lot about what kind of record I wanted to make. I mean that only gets me so far. There's still other people in the band, but
Right.
before I started writing, I gave it a lot of thought, and I did want there to be an underarching theme to the whole album. I just wanted it to be dark. I wanted it to be severe, and I wanted it to be to hit really hard. Those are sort of the main, just the very general things that I was thinking of as I began writing the album.
Well, right now and right here, it's very easy to find inspiration in the dark and the severe. So with everything else that's going on across the globe, do you feel like reality is moving faster than you can even kind of put a pen to paper on, or are you able to keep your thoughts all put together? Do you ever feel like because there's so much going on and being able to keep up with it when you're writing?
I think that, through the years we've acquired a reputation as a socially conscious political band, and I don't think that's inaccurate. I get a kick out of it when people used to email me on social media and be like, "I liked you guys before you got all political." And that said, one of my favorite bands, in fact, probably the band that was like my gateway drug into being radicalized, was the Dead Kennedys. And as great as I think they were, one thing that they did that we don't do is that they had songs which were tethered to specific moments in history, specific events. And I've always tried to write songs about the more general undercurrents of what's going on, or what type of scenarios could foster an environment where something like this could happen, rather than naming that event itself. And so in the macro, like what's happening right now in the world, a lot of this will end and move on to something else. But I think that we have to make sure we don't miss the forest for the trees. I think there's a lot of obsession about specific people, and I think that that's looking in the wrong direction. I think we got to look at the underpinnings of society and of our culture, which could facilitate the rise of somebody like that, not the person themselves, because they're going to come and go. It's to me, I think we're missing the big picture sometimes. So that's a long-winded way of saying that, like, I'm not writing about specific events in the world today.
Fair enough.
I kind of never have, but specifically now. Hopefully, writing stuff that's going to give people more food for thought about how they can step back and look at this in a much bigger picture, and find an actionable piece to like limit the amount of things that like this that are happening in the future.
What responsibility do you think that artists have, whether it's specific or just in general, for artists to speak out as to everything that's going on throughout history? And then on the flip side of that, do you ever worry that people are going to become numb to any political messaging in music?
I don't think artists bear any responsibility. The flip side of that, though, is that I do believe that artists can take a massive amount of credit for the progress that's been made. So, like, for example, there's bands that I like, or that I grew up liking, that weren't political at all. They're funny to me. They're entertaining. And it's kind of like, if I'm listening to just serious hardcore, like, all the time, I think I might just get numb to it. And so I found it valuable to have bands to listen to that lightened things up a little bit and gave me a little bit of a break from that. I also think that being in a band gives me no authority to speak on politics or anything else. I don't have a doctorate. I don't have a thing hanging on my wall that says like I can talk about politics because I went to whatever university. I always mention this. There's an interview I read a long time ago with Chuck Dukowski, who was the bass player from Black Flag, and he was doing this interview with a fanzine, and the kid asked him all this political stuff, and Dukowski waited till he was done and goes, I'm glad you asked me about politics. Since I'm a bass player, I know everything about it. And I always keep that in mind. Like, I can't take myself too seriously. I have really strong opinions. It's no secret that I do. It's no secret that I'm way far to the left of American politics. And not everybody's going to agree with that. And that's okay. And a lot of people that come to hear hardcore music, they don't want to hear about it. They want to dance, they want to unwind. And I don't think it's my job to stand at the door and police people and be like, you got to answer this 10-point questionnaire, PowerPoint presentation about geopolitics before you can enjoy my music. I think at some point we got to put this stuff out in the world and then release ownership of it, and it becomes whatever people are going to make of it. And I know, because it happened to me, that through bands like mine, and there are dozens, hundreds, that people will become radicalized to varying degrees, and then become politically active outside of the musical sphere, and that's great, but it's not a necessity, and it's not my job to police it.
Absolutely, yeah, I 100% agree. So just another quick break for ads. Nothing says punk rock quite like monetization, so we'll be right back. All right, so back to your last topic and the statement that you made regarding the bands that helped kind of influence you to become radicalized. I discovered Mario Savio through you guys. Noam Chomsky and Howard Zinn were on records, and that's how I came upon them. So in today's world, are there voices that you feel like people should be paying attention to? Obviously not bass players, but actual people who know what's going on that you should be listening to?
I have to admit, I'm not as in the loop with that stuff as I once was. I feel, I just came here from I'm part of an activist group here in Santa Cruz County, and we just had our monthly. It's a civil rights group. We just had our monthly meeting, and it's a lot of older people. I mean, I'm not young, and I might be the youngest person there. And I love their heart. I love the dedication. It makes me sad that younger people, and maybe they're active in other ways that I just don't see. But I think that technology and personal device type stuff has enabled a current generation of people to be, I don't know what to say, like not like, yeah, like viewing the world through a screen maybe, and not in person.
Yeah, you're a bit distanced from it, and then obviously
that
you think you're
sounds,
doing your bit by just typing a couple of lines into
but
an app
maybe
that's owned by a billionaire.
maybe you are, and like I'm realizing that I'm sounding very like get off my lawn right now, and it's not. That's the last thing I want to do, because I couldn't stand those people when I was younger. I think everybody, kind of like with the music, like it's not up for me to decide what your level of activism should be. I think it is dangerous to live in a time where the information is so varied. I remember when I was a kid, there was these books, Choose Your Own Adventure,
Mm-hmm.
and now you can choose your own facts. You can choose your own news. Like when I was a kid, this is going way back, but when I was a kid, there was the 6 o'clock news. Sorry, I got sirens here. When I was a kid, there was the 6 o'clock news, right?
Mm-hmm.
And me and my parents watched it, and so did everybody else in the country, and they all saw the same thing. And whether that news was bogus or not, that's not the point. The point is that like everybody was given the same template of facts to then make decisions on. And those days are over. Like nowadays, somebody can ensconce themselves in a completely fabricated existence of information that feeds into their narrative of what they think the world should look like. And I think that's dangerous, because we don't have any. We're not all looking at the statue and going, what does this say to you? Everybody's looking at their own statue that's completely different, and I think we've lost something there. And I think that that situation makes discourse even harder. It makes it even harder to build community, and it makes it even harder to bridge these sort of ideological or dogmatic chasms that have grown between our fellows.
Yeah, I watch it with my kids, and I see how hard it is for them just to find their own voice, because they spend so much time repeating what they're seeing from whomever it is that they choose to follow along the way. And I probably did the same thing when I was 17 too, but looking back on it, I felt like I had a set of facts that I was able to stick with, and it wasn't that I had my set of facts and then I'd had my brother's set of facts and my cousin's set of facts. I had the set of facts. Whereas now you can, if your For You page is showing you the wrong thing or something that you don't like, you just get a new set. It's kind of like shuffling the deck that doesn't need to be shuffled.
Yeah, and I don't know where this all goes. Once I found out that Meta was allowing ICE to run recruitment ads across their platforms, I deleted all my Meta social media, and I've been kind of better for it in ways that I didn't expect. But it's left me to be like, well, I still kind of want to know what's going on in the world. I mean, it seems like it's all bad news now. I remember not even, like maybe 10 years ago, it was like bad news, oh, some good news, bad news, oh, some good news. And now it's just, it sucks. But like, where do Americans find something to inform them about the world that's not colored by a billionaire's agenda? Where do they find that? And it's a tricky one. Before, like I said, when I was a kid, there was no corporate agenda really to the news. It was boring, it was bland, but it was the news, and everybody saw the same thing. And that's not the same now. Now it's news. It's paid advertising for a corporate agenda that's masquerading as news. It's doctrine. People are being exposed to doctrine all day, every day, and they don't know it. They don't realize it.
Yeah, it's difficult to find anything to feel optimistic about.
I think if people had listened to more articles of faith, none of this would ever have happened.
Well, to try to find some good news, obviously you're a hockey fan, and if you ignore any of the pre and post game controversies, both teams had an amazing run, and as did the Paralympic teams. So, what are you most excited about now that the Devils have unfortunately been kicked out of the playoff picture?
You said both teams. You mean the men and women hockey?
Men and women and the
Yeah.
Paralympic teams.
Yeah. Well, this time of year, like sometimes when the Devils are out, it's almost better for me because I don't become I'm not an unhinged maniac. I'm just a hockey fan that's watching like the best hockey because the playoffs is the best hockey. I don't think any other sport can touch playoff hockey. Now I'm a Devils fan, but I'm a San Jose Sharks season ticket holder, and they still have a chance to sneak in. So I might be going to playoff games here, but even if I don't, it's still going to be great to watch the playoffs. And if the Devils are out, that sucks, but the Rangers and Flyers are both out, that's okay. That makes it better. And like I said, I become less of an unhinged maniac. I just like get to nerd out and watch great hockey. And then also, if you're me, May coming around means the Memorial Cup. So I love watching that. It's the best junior hockey tournament there is, except for the World Juniors. Frozen Four is coming up. And then after that will be the men's world championships. So spring and summer is good. A really good time for hockey, being a hockey fan.
Absolutely. And how did you feel about the Four Nations last year? Did you feel like that was something that you want to see continue, or was it a little bit weird break, or how did you feel on that one?
I enjoyed it. I feel like so during the Four Nations, we were on the Flogging Molly cruise, and so we were on a boat in the middle of the ocean, but there was these like up on the pool deck, there was these two up on the pool deck there's a bar, and then on each side of the bar there was a little lounge outside and big screen TVs. And so like I was there with my partner, and she's a hockey fan also, and it was so cool. It was like evening, nice breeze out, boats cruising along. We're up standing up there watching Four Nations hockey, and the Circle Jerks were playing like right behind us. It was a really surreal kind of cool experience. And then for the final game, one side of that thing was all Americans and the other side was all Canadians. And for the final game, and that was pretty funny too.
Nice.
I enjoyed it like that for me because I watch a lot of hockey. I have the center ice package because my favorite team is 3,000 miles away. So, but I tend to watch a lot of random hockey games anyway. But the Four Nations I like because like I had no idea. I'm not trying to turn this into a hockey nerd broadcast or anything, so just stop me. I had no idea how good Matt Boldy was. Plays for the Minnesota Wild. I heard his name. I knew who he was. But watching the Four Nations, I was like, holy fuck, like that kid's a player. And now I watch the Minnesota Wild a lot. And same with Zach Werenski and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Like I couldn't think of a good reason to watch a Columbus Blue Jackets game before. No offense to anybody living in Columbus. But like now, like I want to watch the Columbus Blue Jackets. They came to play the Sharks, and my buddy, who barely even cares about hockey, he's like, I want to go see Zach Werenski. And so we went to see the Columbus Blue Jackets. on a Tuesday night, and it was packed. So like, I thought the Four Nations was a really cool coming out party for some players that maybe
Yeah,
don't play that maybe don't play in like A markets.
I think that a lot of these international play games are just really wonderful for the sport in general. I mean, you've got kids. My kids could not care less about hockey. We've taken them to a couple of Devils games, but outside of that, they just don't care. But they did care during this. Obviously, I'm sure that heated rivalry got the word out a little bit before the Olympics, but my 17-year-old daughter was way into watching as much hockey as possible. And then when it went back to the regular season, she was sitting next to me watching a Devils Rangers game. So it's a lot of fun that you can have these moments that bring everything to the masses the way that international sports do.
Well, yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's the only time I get really patriotic is if it's an IIHF sponsored event. I get pretty patriotic about USA Hockey. But yeah, I mean, it's the best thing going, and I think all of us need a little bit of a breather sometimes from the day to day, and I think that's sports is the toy department of life, and so we can find a little bit of time to just be able to not think about other things.
Nice, yeah. So we're just gonna take one last quick pause
Sure.
for us to keep the lights on. Even anti-establishment conversations need to have some electricity. So we'll be back in just a minute. All right, awesome. So back to the band and obviously the reason that you and I are talking today. So Good Riddance formed back in 1990. What stands out to you most over the 36 years that you guys have been together? What is if you could only say one thing that really strikes you, what has it been?
It's wild to me how fast it's gone by. Uh, there was a movie, I was flipping around channels, and there's a movie on that I remember us going to see on a night off before a show in Salt Lake City on our first U.S. tour in 1995. And I was watching the movie, and it just seemed like it was just yesterday that we were at the theater watching it as a band. I think that's what's such a trip, because people are like, I meet people at shows now. They're like, "Hey, this is my son. He's graduating high school. I went to your shows, and now my son's here and he's graduating high school." It's like, no, there's no way we've been around that long, but we have, and so I think that if you're asking what's different, I think looking out at hundreds of people with their phones in the air is what's different.
What do you think it is that's allowed the band to endure as long as it has and do so successfully?
I think we've been really fortunate. Like, the core three of us have been like Luke and I since 1990. Chuck joined in 1993. Sean joined in 1995, and Sean's been in and out, but he's more or less been what Bill Stevenson calls the drummer of record for Good Riddance. And so I think for that to happen, you have to have some type of mutual respect and understanding of each other and each other's struggles and hardships outside the band. And I think that in 2007, we made a decision to stop playing, like for real. And nobody was more surprised than me when 5 years later we were playing again. But I think that break was probably helpful as well, to get everybody a chance to get on their feet, away from the band with their own life, and to miss the band, to miss it, because before that, up until around that point, bands can get onto kind of a hamster wheel, like it's kind of a grind, and no one's going to complain. Like, we're fortunate to get to do it, but it became very I got very tunnel vision with it, and forgot sometimes to be grateful. I forgot sometimes to be like humble, and that time away put the band into a really, for me, a healthy perspective, to where it was like, now it's all like icing on the cake, you know what I mean? Like we get to do cool stuff, and people still pay us some money to do it, and we're super grateful. So I think we're fortunate. None of us had any like gnarly drug or alcohol problems. So we've dodged those bullets. A lot of bands don't dodge those bullets. So I think ultimately it's a band of brothers. It's growing old with people and meeting them where they're at, and having enough compassion and understanding to realize that we may not always agree, but we're greater than the sum of our parts. I think that's probably what it is.
Awesome. So when everything is said and done, what do you hope Good Riddance means to the people who are listening to it, the people who need it the most?
If one person gets exposed to our music and decides to become politically active, then we won $1 million. If one person gets exposed to our music and decides to take themselves out of the loop of factory farming and animal cruelty, we've won $1 million. And if one person gets exposed to our music and becomes a New Jersey Devils fan, we won $1 million. Those three things.
All right, perfect. So before we let you go, what's the one thing you want people to take away from this record and this moment that Good Riddance is about to have?
Enjoy the ride, and I want to thank everybody for letting us be part of their lives for so long. It's humbling, and it means a lot to us.
Beautiful. Russ, this was awesome. I really appreciate your time. Once again, the record Before the World Caves In is out March 27th. Make sure you guys check it out. And thank you again.
Thanks.